I never thought a single phone call could completely derail my life. It was late afternoon, I was sprawled on my couch, scrolling through my emails when I saw it, a message from an unknown number. We're offering a unique experience. Get paid to be a girl for one night. Interested? I laughed at first. Seriously, who would send this kind of message? But as I stared at the words, a strange curiosity began to creep in. One night? Paid? Just act like a girl? The rational part of my brain screamed, this is a scam. But another, far more reckless part whispered, what if you just tried it? It sounded absurd, terrifying even. Yet, the idea of stepping into a completely different persona, even for a night, sent a thrill through me I couldn't ignore. I clicked reply, typing a hesitant yes. That evening, I arrived at a nondescript building in the city. The lobby was sleek, modern, almost clinical, and the receptionist handed me a folder without a word. Inside were instructions, a schedule, and a wardrobe, dresses, heels, makeup, and even wigs. My stomach twisted as I stared at it all. I had never worn anything like this in my life, and now I was being asked to transform completely, under the watchful eye of strangers. The fear was immediate, suffocating, but there was also that flicker of curiosity I couldn't deny. You'll be guided every step of the way, said a woman in a crisp uniform. Her calm, confident tone was both reassuring and intimidating. Remember, it's only for one night. Trust the process. I nodded, but my hands were shaking as I opened the wardrobe. The dress was soft, satin, pale pink. Tiny straps, tight around the waist. I held it in my hands, my pulse hammering. This was it, the point of no return. The transformation began slowly. First, my hair. A stylist brushed and curled my wig until it framed my face perfectly. I didn't recognize myself in the mirror, and a pang of fear shot through me. Who was this person staring back? Someone soft, delicate, undeniably feminine. Next came makeup. Foundation, blush, eyeliner, lipstick. The brushes felt alien against my skin, yet intimate. Each stroke changed my reflection further, smoothing my features, softening my jaw, highlighting my eyes. I barely recognized the person in the mirror. Finally, the dress. Sliding into it, I felt exposed and fragile. The heels made my legs wobble, unsteady at first, but gradually I learned to balance, to move with a hesitant grace. My heart raced in anticipation and fear. You look incredible, said the stylist. I barely whispered, who am I now? Walking out into the main hall, I realized I was no longer myself. Every eye followed me, guests, staff, participants. Some whispered, some smiled, others stared. I felt like a specimen under a microscope, every movement, every gesture scrutinized. I had to adopt the persona fully, voice soft, posture elegant, gestures delicate. Even speaking felt unnatural at first, but as I repeated it, I began to feel a strange sense of power. People were responding to this version of me. Their admiration, their curiosity, their attention, it was intoxicating. By the time the evening began, I was halfway transformed, not just in appearance, but in mindset. I was playing a part, yes, but the part felt real. And I couldn't deny the thrill it gave me. As the night progressed, my confidence grew. I mingled with other guests, laughed, flirted, and noticed the way strangers treated me differently. Compliments came easily, smiles lingered, conversations flowed. I could feel the persona slipping from performance into something authentic. And then came the challenges. Every interaction became a test of composure, of courage. I had to maintain the illusion flawlessly, even when my feet screamed in pain, when I stumbled in heels, when my voice wavered with nervousness. Each small victory sent adrenaline coursing through me, each failure made me tighten my posture and try again. At one point, a man complimented my dress. You look stunning, he said, his tone sincere. My heart leapt. I felt pride, embarrassment, and a strange, deep satisfaction all at once. I caught my reflection in a nearby mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. This was me, and yet not me. Hours passed, and the night began to push boundaries I hadn't anticipated. Tasks I had thought were harmless became tests of my comfort zone. Posing for photos, dancing, interacting with strangers, it was all exhilarating, terrifying, and intensely intimate. Every brush against my skin, every whispered compliment, every glance felt magnified. At one point, the organizers announced a final showcase. Participants would be evaluated on poise, confidence, and presentation. My pulse skyrocketed. My hands shook. I wasn't sure if I could do it. "You're ready," whispered a fellow participant, giving me a reassuring smile. "Just be yourself, as her." I took a deep breath and stepped forward. The showcase was surreal. Cameras flashed, eyes followed, and my entire body felt alive in a way it never had before. Each step, each smile, each tilt of the head was a triumph over fear. My voice, my posture, my gestures, all harmonized. I realized then that the person I had been hiding for so long, someone curious, bold, and capable of beauty, was finally emerging. And yet, with the thrill came the unexpected, a pang of vulnerability, a realization that this experience was awakening something deeper than I had anticipated. I liked this side of myself. More than that, I loved it. By the end of the night, I had changed. Not just in appearance, but in spirit. I had faced fear, embraced vulnerability, and discovered a confidence I never knew existed. Standing there, in heels that ached but legs that felt powerful, in a dress that had once terrified me, I finally understood. Transformation isn't just about clothes or makeup, it's about courage, self-discovery, and authenticity. I caught my reflection one last time before returning the outfit. The person staring back at me was radiant, confident, empowered. And though I knew I could change back tomorrow, a part of me would never forget the thrill, the freedom, and the discovery of that night. Walking home, heels in hand, I realized how much the night had taught me. I had stepped into a world I never imagined, faced my fears, and discovered something vital. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite it. Authenticity isn't about fitting in, it's about embracing who you truly are, even if only for a moment. That single night, one dress, and the promise of a small paycheck had shown me more about myself than years of routine ever could. I had been paid to be a girl for a night, but what I gained was far more than money. I gained a glimpse of freedom, empowerment, and a side of myself I would never let go. And as I stepped into the cool night air, I whispered to myself, this isn't the end. It's just the beginning. After that first night, I couldn't stop thinking about the experience. The moment I had stepped into that dress, into the heels, and looked into the mirror, something inside me had shifted. It wasn't just the clothes or the makeup, it was the person staring back at me, someone softer, more delicate, undeniably feminine. Back at my apartment, I found myself experimenting in secret. I tried on outfits I would have never dared before, testing fabrics, textures, and fits. Each new piece was an adventure, a tiny thrill of forbidden excitement. I practiced walking in heels, wobbling at first, then slowly gaining balance, learning how to sway my hips just so, how to carry myself with a cautious grace. Makeup became another layer of discovery. I experimented with blush, eyeliner, lipstick. At first, each brushstroke felt alien, almost wrong, but as I repeated it, it began to feel natural. I whispered to myself while looking in the mirror, could this really be me? The answer, gradually, seemed to be yes. The thrill wasn't just in private. I began taking small, tentative steps into the world. Short trips to the corner store, a walk in the park, each outing was terrifying, my pulse pounding with every glance and passing car. But the reactions surprised me. People smiled, doors were held open, strangers complimented my clothing. I realized that not only was I discovering a new version of myself, but the world was responding positively to it. Each successful outing boosted my confidence. I began experimenting further, trying different styles, learning to adjust my voice, practicing gestures, finding a rhythm in the way I moved and spoke. There were setbacks, of course, wobbles in heels, nervous stumbles, a glance that made me panic, but each one was a lesson, each one pushing me further into this persona I was discovering. Weekends became the real test. I started attending small social gatherings fully dressed, fully made up, interacting with strangers. The first few times, my heart raced uncontrollably. Every compliment sent a shiver through me, every look of admiration made my cheeks burn. But gradually, I found joy in these moments, a sense of empowerment I hadn't anticipated. I realized this wasn't just playing a role, it was stepping into a side of myself I had never allowed to flourish. One evening, while walking through a crowded street, I caught my reflection in a shop window. The person looking back, soft features, elegant posture, confident gaze, was someone I could almost claim as mine. A rush of pride and excitement flooded me. I adjusted my dress, ran a hand lightly through my hair, and whispered, yes, this can be me. Even in private, I continued to grow. I experimented with different makeup looks, hairstyles, and accessories. Each small change taught me more about myself and the persona I could embody. It was thrilling and terrifying all at once, the thrill of discovery, the terror of exposure. But the more I explored, the more real it felt. Then came public events. A dinner party, a casual meetup, a small exhibition, I began attending as her. My confidence grew, though fear lingered, a constant companion. But the reactions were overwhelmingly positive. Compliments, curiosity, even admiration. I realized that each interaction was reshaping how I saw myself, breaking down old fears and replacing them with courage. And yet, there were moments of panic. One day, a neighbor unexpectedly spotted me dressed and made a curious comment. My pulse spiked, and I felt exposed. But I remembered the words my wife had whispered during the first night, "Be yourself." Fully. Taking a deep breath, I smiled and continued walking, realizing that the fear of judgment could no longer control me. By the end of this period, I had changed. Not just in appearance, but in spirit. I had discovered courage, self-expression, and a side of myself I never knew existed. The experience had become more than a one-night event. It was a journey into empowerment, self-discovery, and freedom. Weeks passed, and what started as a one-night experience had begun to consume me. I was no longer just playing a role for money or curiosity, I was discovering parts of myself I had never acknowledged. But with this growing confidence came a creeping anxiety. What if someone from my normal life saw me? What if they judged me, laughed at me, or worse, rejected me? The tension reached its peak one evening when the organizers invited me to a high-profile social event, a luxurious gathering full of influential guests, cameras, and an audience that could scrutinize every detail. My heart hammered in my chest as I opened the wardrobe. The dress was exquisite, deep violet, silk, hugging curves I didn't know could look so feminine. The heels were sky-high, and my wig was styled in perfect waves. I stared at myself in the mirror. The reflection was breathtaking. I was beautiful, radiant, and fully alive in a way I hadn't felt before. But fear clawed at my stomach. One wrong step, one tremor in my voice, one misplaced gesture, and the illusion could crumble. "You look incredible," said the stylist, giving me a reassuring smile. "Remember, confidence is key. Own it." I nodded, my hands trembling slightly, and took a deep breath. The elevator ride to the venue felt like an eternity. My reflection in the mirrored walls of the elevator caught my eye again, and I whispered to myself, "You can do this. You are her. You are enough." The event was overwhelming. Cameras flashed, guests murmured, and every movement I made felt magnified. My heels clicked against the marble floor, my dress flowing with each step. Compliments came fast, voices soft and warm, eyes curious and admiring. But beneath the exhilaration, panic simmered. Every glance reminded me of my old self, the one who would have run away in fear, hiding behind baggy clothes and silence. Then came the confrontation. A man I recognized from my normal life, a colleague from work, walked past. His gaze locked on me for a long, excruciating moment. My stomach sank. I froze, unsure if I should flee, explain, or continue pretending. "Wow. I didn't expect to see you here," he said, surprise and curiosity in his voice. I could feel every heartbeat echoing in my chest. My mind raced. Do I reveal myself? Do I hide? What do I even say? Then, I remembered the months of private experimentation, the small victories, the way my confidence had grown with every outing. I straightened my shoulders, lifted my chin, and smiled, a real, radiant smile. "Yes," I said softly, voice steady but melodic. "It's me." The words were liberating. The tension that had coiled in my chest for weeks melted away. His eyes widened, surprise evident, but he smiled, accepting, without judgment. That moment marked the turning point. I realized I didn't have to hide, didn't have to fear exposure. I could exist fully as this version of myself. The rest of the evening became a blur of exhilaration. I mingled, laughed, and even danced. My body moved with a confidence I hadn't known existed. Strangers complimented me, photographers snapped pictures, and I felt truly seen, not just for how I looked, but for the energy, courage, and authenticity I radiated. By the time the night wound down, I was exhausted but elated. I had confronted fear head-on, embraced vulnerability, and discovered empowerment in ways I hadn't imagined. The one-night experiment had turned into a revelation. I was capable of more than I had ever allowed myself to believe. Returning home, heels in hand, dress slightly rumpled but face glowing, I realized how much I had changed. I wasn't just a person who had dressed up for money or curiosity. I had become someone courageous, radiant, and unapologetically authentic. In the following weeks, I carried that transformation into my everyday life. I experimented more boldly with fashion, makeup, and self-expression. I navigated work and social spaces with new confidence, knowing that authenticity was more powerful than fear. Friends and family noticed subtle changes, a newfound poise, a glow of self-assurance, and a joy in interaction I hadn't shown before. And the most important change was internal. I had learned to embrace vulnerability, to confront fear, and to revel in the freedom of being seen fully. The experience had taught me that empowerment doesn't come from perfection. It comes from courage, exploration, and honesty with oneself. I wasn't just paid to be a girl for a night. I had been paid in revelation, in self-discovery, in freedom. That one night had pushed me to the edge of my comfort zone, and I had leapt, only to find wings I didn't know I had. Looking back, I understand now that transformation isn't just physical, it's emotional, spiritual, and deeply personal. That night, one dress, one chance, changed the trajectory of my life. I discovered joy, empowerment, and authenticity in ways I had never imagined. I learned that fear is temporary, curiosity is powerful, and authenticity is the ultimate reward. I learned that exploring yourself, embracing new sides of who you are, and stepping boldly into discomfort can lead to a freedom you never thought possible. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see someone radiant, confident, and unapologetically herself. The experience didn't end with the night, it began a journey I continue to live every day. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. One dress, one night, and everything changed.